Greetings, my fellow freedom sovereign thinkers. This is L3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Swampy Mangoes of South Florida, and today's date is Friday, March 2nd, 2018. A little windy out here. Spring break is about to start. Some of the kids that came out around midnight, did their exams, all that good stuff. Volleyball tournaments happening at the beach as well. And I'm at Stash, which is a bar and coffee den located at 109 Southwest 2nd Avenue in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Jansen, with Revolution Live and America's Backyard, part of the 3 Dre Group Network. Well, it's going to be interesting stuff. It's going to be happening in Tallahassee. It looks like there's another school shooting, or a shooting happened in Central Michigan University. Is it organic or synthetic? It's like trying to push, exploit it big time to have you folks live in fear and give up your freedoms, which, like I said, you've inherently owned. It can never be taken away from you folks. However, it's always know to be vigilant in your surroundings, which is extremely essential. I know there's going to be a big battle going on in Tallahassee with one of the bills pertaining to school safety in their schools. Talked about it a couple of days ago. It has its pros and cons. The cons: get rid of the 21 and age over for to purchase a rifle in a 3-day waiting period. Because, like I said before, the shooter purchased the firearm in Broward County, which have a 5-day waiting period, which is Broward County Ordinance 18-96. It didn't work. Okay? So enough of the Band-Aid theories and get more realistic. But I'm not here to discuss that. I know a lot of them are. And I always give you people my intake out of fidelity. So this is going to be an interesting time. And I'm going to be discussing a few areas here today. And this one here came from today actually came out yesterday. Derek Bros says here, United Nations calls for the accused 9/11 plotter to be released immediately. Interesting. So we'll just find out what it has to say about this. As it reads, here, as the trial faces further delays, the United Nations has issued a report calling for immediate release of a man accused of helping plan the 9/11 attack. Yes, what's taking so long? A new report from the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Definition condemns the illegal detention and torture of a man who was once accused of assisting the plotters of the September 11, 2001 attacks on New York City, the Pentagon, and other planned attacks. The UN WGAD issued the new report outlining detainment and torture of Ammar al-Balchoui and calling for his immediate release and financial compensation. Al-Balchoui was captured in Pakistan in April 2003 before being turned over to U.S. authorities. He has been held at a secret military prison in Cuba since 2006 after being accused of assisting the alleged 9/11 mastermind Khalid Shaikh Mohammed. Can I say patsy, scapegoat, fall guy, oh my. Mr. al-Balchoui has been subject to prolonged detention on discriminatory grounds and has not been afforded equality of arms in terms of having adequate facility for the preparation of his defense under the same conditions as the prosecution, the report states. Sounds like the Gitmo version of the Charles Manson case. Not giving him a fair trial. The report indicates a source close to the situation has stated that al-Balchoui was held without charge or access to a lawyer until at least April 2008, at which point he was unable to choose his own representation and instead given a military lawyer. He has been deprived of due process and a fair trial guarantees that would ordinarily apply to the judicial system of the United States. Absolutely, the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. But it's things called exceptionalism. The more the propaganda matrix continues. The 2014 U.S. Intelligence Committee report on torture found that al-Balchoui was taken to the CIA black site known as the Salt Pit where he faced torture in the form of waterboarding and other simulated drowning techniques, as well as physical beatings. The UN Working Group said this widespread or systematic imprisonment or other severe deprivations of liberty is in a violation of rules of international law in which may constitute crimes against humanity. And, of course, the Eighth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Cruel and unusual punishment. In response to the report, Commander Sarah Higgins, a Department of Defense spokesperson, told the Independent the U.S. government has the legal authority to detain al-Baluchi until we have time to analyze the basis of their claim. We will delay further comment. I'm not laughing because I'm happy. This is absolutely insulting. I will proceed. At the same time as the UN is seeking the release of al-Baluchi, the trial of KSM may face yet another delay, nearly 15 years of dead-end hearings, Military.com reports. The judge in the September 11th terror case said in court Monday that he would order Defense Secretary Jim Mattis to explain in writing why he suddenly fired the top official overseeing the World Court. Defense attorney in the case are calling the dismissal foul play, in part because he had been. Some have been hopeful of negotiating a deal in the death penalty case with Harvey Rishikoff, a mass appointee who, until February 5th, served as a convening authority for military commissions. Judge Army Colonel Lieutenant James L. Poe stated that the courts need to know why the dismissal took place. Poe has been overseeing the case of the 5 men accusing of directing or funding the 19 hijackers accused of crashing planes in New York City, the Pentagon, and the Pennsylvania field on September 11, 2001. According to Military.com, Poe will issue an order in writing this week and gives Mattis a deadline of March 17th for a written response explaining the reasons for the firing. Unfortunately, this is not the first time the 9/11 trial has dealt with funny business from the government. On May 11, 2016, defense lawyers for KSM asked for Judge Colonel James Poe and the prosecution team to be recused from the trial and for the case to be shut down. Defense lawyers David Nevin and Major Derek Potee said that the U.S. government destroyed evidence related to the case, according to the New York Times. 2 men are unable to provide further details because the issue is classified, but Mr. Nevin said the evidence was favorable to the defendants. Major Potee also told the Times that the defense was first informed in February that Colonel Poe will provide them with a summary of substitute for the original classified evidence. The defense requests Colonel Poe to preserve the evidence for the record, and Poe complied. Or so they thought. Delivery truck. But they learned in February they said that about 20 months earlier, and without their knowledge, prosecutors have obtained from Colonel Poe a secret order that reversed his previous decision. The Times writes, by the time they found, the government had already destroyed the evidence, giving them no opportunity to challenge the move. Major Potee said the situation created the appearance that Colonel Poe was colluding with the government. The Times report that the original, now destroyed evidence may have been related to one of several foreign black site prisons operated by the Central Intelligence Agency in Thailand, Poland, Romania, Lithuania, and Afghanistan. A secret site at the Guantanamo base. KSM was tortured for several years at one of these sites before being transferred to a military prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, in 2006. It is unlikely that the public will ever get the truth about the 9/11 attacks or the trials. These men will likely rot away in secret prison for the rest of their lives. Yes, and there's a big possible contract with the Pentagon on enhancing the prisons in Gitmo from News. It's on YouTube. Check it out. And of course, you hear Donald Trump, President Trump says torture is good. I can see him get waterboarded. Come on, Donald. Come on, Mr. President. Let's see you get waterboarded. Right? Absolutely. Let's see how this facade goes. So, truth of the matter is, this is totally unacceptable because they could do it to any of us. Okay, my friends? They use this, the hijackers, as an excuse and say, that's okay. Thumbs up. They attack them because of our freedoms. Give them the thumbs up. We'll sacrifice our freedom for security. Trust us. They will protect us. We'll trust they will protect us. Right? Absolutely. So, I can say this, my friends. Activist Post is a real good site. There's a lot of multiple sources in here, great writers, and they are all sharing information, which is fantastic. So check this out. And I say release demand. Should have had a trial. No ends, ifs, or buts. You guys aren't exceptional. This is an example of the military industrial complex. And my friends, $700 billion a year now. Originally wanted $1 trillion, but $700 billion. Well, there you go. Going to torture chambers. Indefinite imprisonment. And on our tax dollars. Ain't that great? I think that's beautiful. Everyone's worried about all the small stuff and not focusing on the bigger picture. All you worshipers better be paying attention. Some people accuse me for being a pro-Trumpster and all that, but I never leave my security eggs under one man in his administration. I never do that. Because my rights are natural born. When I see this, it can happen to any of us. Just think about the domino effect. That's an example of how government tyranny works. All right. Speaking of foreign policy here, Land Destroyer came out earlier today. I got this around 4 o'clock this morning on my email. It says here, U.S. propaganda collapses in Syria, but threat remains. This is by Tony Carlaluzzi from NEO, or News and Outlook. Propaganda used by the United States and its partners amidst its destructive campaign of regime change aimed at the Syrian government has collapsed. Western media platforms find themselves relying on increasingly absurd narratives told to an increasingly smaller audience. They also find themselves the target of growing criticism from around the world. The U.S. and its allies are currently reporting violations of the UN resolution regarding ceasefire in the Ghouta, despite the text of the resolution itself authorizing continued military operations against Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, both in Ghouta and across the rest of Syria. The UN resolution states clear that the cessation of hostilities shall not apply to military operations against the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant ISL, known as Daesh, Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra Front, ANF, and all other individual groups, undertakings, and entities associated with Al-Qaeda and ISIL, and other terrorist groups as designated by the UN Security Council. Every Western human rights fronts like Human Rights Watch has admitted to Al-Qaeda's presence in Ghouta. HRW Director Kenneth Roth, and in one social media post, proclaimed Putin-Assad seemed to be using the presence of an Al-Qaeda-linked group, Anar al-Sham, in one tiny corner in eastern Ghouta as an excuse to attack civilians throughout the besieged enclave despite UN Security Council ceasefire. Roth never explains why Syria or Russia would use their limited military resources to attack civilians instead of the armed terrorists Roth himself admits are present in Ghouta attempting to overthrow the Syrian government and kill both Syrian and Russian personnel in Syria. And this, among other unraveling narratives, is why the West's propaganda war has lost tremendous ground. However, despite the important step forward exposing the propaganda component of the West war in Syria, it's not enough to stop Western military aggression, both direct and by proxy, or to eliminate the threat Syria and its allies, as well as the entire region, still face. Might still makes right. The United States' ability to wage war on a nation in Iraq, Libya, Yemen, and Syria is not owed to its ability convincing allies. Instead, it is rooted first and foremost in its immense economic and military power, which it turns to afford it equally immense and unwarranted influence and political power. This is reflected into the corporate financial sponsorship of the U.S. policy think tanks, institutions, of unelected policymakers, who in fact devise long-term U.S. foreign policy and merely having politicians rubber stamp it legislatively, while media organizations promote it publicly. So I like to all throw something out there now and then. Will pursue the ability to the U.S. intervene in invade, and occupy nations around the globe is dependent on its massive resources, including a network of military bases and logistical hubs. For instance, ships used to move weapons and equipment into theater of military operations to continue resupplying forces for years at a time. This is a network that rising nations, as being as big as China, will take years to develop if they ever develop them to the extent the U.S. has. Nations and blocs attempted to confront the balance, global power, and Western hegemony understand this fully. The rising economies of nations like China, regions like Southeast Asia, the BRICS Association, and emerging Russia, and other developing nations around the globe are accompanied by attempts to create an entirely alternative global order based on multipolar geopolitics. This includes the creation of alternatives to the U.S. dollar and global trade, alternatives to U.S. and European dominated industries and markets, and the creation of proliferation of defensive military technology that gain America's long-standing military superiority. These efforts are extensive, ongoing, and long-term. It will take years to still rein in U.S. aggression and the military and economic primacy that underpins it until a global balance of power can be struck. The maximum of might makes right will continue to prevail and define the global geopolitics of the U.S. and its allies. Facing the threat as individuals for nation states across the globe, the process of calling alternatives to compete with and eventually displace U.S. and Western hegemony is already ongoing. Unfortunately, most individuals around the globe, both genuine, the root of the problem, and the solution is still poorly understood. For many people invested in resisting Western propaganda, many still find themselves on a daily basis paying into various corporations and financial institutions underwriting that very propaganda and driving the agenda that propaganda serves. Very few, even when aware of this, have a desire to commit themselves to a full spectrum boycott of the Western companies driving Western military aggressions globally. Few have desire or ability to contribute to alternatives to the West's long-standing monopolies. And there's plenty of information right here. You can check it out yourselves. Interesting, not surprising. So we'll continue on here. However, there is hope. The alternative media itself is an example of many ordinary people around the globe with differing politics and ideological backgrounds creating alternatives to establish Western media monopolies. They have forced Western media monopolies to react and adapt to the growing competition. And in many ways, there has been growing competition that has compromised the many ongoing narratives the West had been once been able to perpetuate with impunity. This includes the narratives the U.S. has used versus Syria. The main driving factor behind the alternative has been technology. It took large amounts of capital, both financial and human, to run newsrooms in order to reach thousands of millions of readers. Today, the tools for publishing written, audio, and video are free or cheap enough for virtually anyone to afford. A single person can access thousands, even millions of viewers. The small budgets available to developing nations are more than enough to compete with established Western propaganda, provided their content is more substance than the West. While Western monopolies have struck back with a series of technological solutions, including algorithms and designed to favor corporate media, these solutions will provide a temporary reprieve. So it's like right now they have to start fluctuating. That's the main objective. And I know the West right now, these Western monopolies are worried about people find getting information a lot quicker, cheaper, and they're being more persistent, taking the initiative of spreading the word out, like I do on my little podcast. Hey, I don't have the equipment, not yet, but you can do things on a real basic budget, like I have. So, I'd like to thank everyone else here for letting me do the shows at certain facilities. I always try to do a plug-in. I always do a plug-in for that, and I can do my show. I think it's great. Technological progress in other industries are ranging from energy to manufacturing are helping decentralize the many economic and military fields the West has long dominated. Even within the West itself, technology is enabling emerging entrepreneurs who do not share Wall Street and Washington's principles or lack thereof and seek a different and more constructive direction for the West. It is important to understand the Syrian conflict in a much larger global paradigm it fits into. By understanding this, we can collectively expose and undermine the special interests fueling the conflict. Currently, U.S. and its allies have exhausted their proxies and find themselves more directly engaged in military intervention in Syria. Defeating this conspiracy against both Syrian people and peace and stability of the Middle Eastern region can no longer be done by simply exposing and eliminating the Western proxies. It also must include a strategy of exposing and eliminating the very source of power driving the West's agenda in the first place, well beyond Syria's borders on Wall Street in London and Brussels. It must be done identifying and displacing the unwarranted power and influence of Western corporate financial monopolies. Emergent victory over the Western propaganda is only a start, but it can start that can be built upon expanded to include a continuing campaign of raising awareness and pressure regarding Western aggression against Syria itself, as well as campaigns aimed at a place on pressure on or even displacing the special interests responsible for its aggression. Exactly. There are many people here in the United States, including myself, Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich, many others, don't like imperialism. We're against it. We find it unconstitutional, totally illegal. Let the people in Syria decide what they want. Some people are not really buying the story as much. Of course, you can have a few, but instead of getting mad at them, teach, share, give them those other sides, and let them think for themselves. Then, in a period of time, they can comprehend and learn. So we got to be the teachers and rabbis out there too. I've been doing it for a good long time, my friends. I know how to do it. I'm 49 years old, still doing it. Voluntary is in my blood. This is how it has to be. They need to study past history of empires. Share that with them. We're all in this together. All on this one planet. Doesn't matter which empire. It could be the Israeli Empire next. We got to treat it all like that across the board. Imperialism is unacceptable because it jeopardizes all of humanity. Not just from that nation, but worldwide. All right. I'll be right back. Okay, so the next one we're going to be discussing here, my friends, came from antimedia.org. The antimedia.org says here, yet another senseless mass killing. Women and children among 25 dead. Came out yesterday. It's written by Carrie Welder. This week, 25 people were slaughtered in yet another mass killing. Half of those deaths were women and children. But you don't see these murders and broadcasts relentlessly on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, nor discuss linked in social media trends. That's because the U.S. military committed them in their crusade against the Islamic State. Last in calls on the Euphrates in Syria, Reuters reported Monday. It is for this reason that many Americans will dismiss comparison between this type of mass killings and school shootings and other domestic mass atrocities. They are grossly overfunded, yet somehow financially irresponsible. Military is fighting the good fight. If some people have to die in the process, Americans can feel this safe in their homes and shopping malls, so be it. Collateral damage is just part of the price the world must pay for the United States to police and keep it safe, even as the American military has racked up millions of civilian deaths during its reign as the global arbiter of morality and justice. Those figures for this week's deaths in Syria were reported by the Syrian Observatory on Human Rights, which, though cited, Often the mainstream media has questionable credibility. The evidence of similar killings from the other sources is rampant. Whether Monday, whether bombings, hospitals, funerals, schools, and or flat out raping and murdering villages filled with civilians, the U.S. military's brutalization of innocent lives is not a rare occurrence. Aside from the callous apathy many Americans display in their dismissals and rationalizations for the loss of innocent lives funded by their tax dollars. I'm not the only one saying this, right? The popular notion that the military must murder civilians to win the greater moral battle is faulty anyway. The U.S. killed as many as 3 million civilians in the Korean War to halt communism, yet to this day, North Koreans remain oppressed under a dictatorial communist regime. While we're on the subject, no U.S. military was not defending its own troops there. They had already been removed prior to the North's attacks on the South. In Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, the United States has haphazardly killed civilians for years before retreating from the nations in defeat. Despite the thousands of people who died, the U.S. has failed to achieve its objective. It was not necessary for the British military and its U.S. counterparts to ravage Dresden, Germany during World War II. Even in its rebel crusade against the Nazis, it is widely accepted that this city was not strategically important, but England and the U.S. raised it. Anyway, it claims tens of thousands of civilians. There's a video out there called Hellstorm. It talks about that. And it's look it up. I know you try to censor it in YouTube, but I think Vimeo has it, and I may have it on my Vimeo account as well. So you should go in there and check it out. It's very powerful. All right, so I'll recommend that to my friends out there to take a closer look. In the case of the indefinite war on terror, these types of tactics and intervention in general only further create hostility that necessitates further violent meddling. In the interview The Nation conducted with prison ISIS fighters, many knew the religious dogma, instead discussing their desperation and anger at the U.S. invasion of Iraq. The Americans came, one said, they took away Saddam, but they took away our security. I didn't like Saddam. We were starving then, but at least we didn't have to have war. When you came here, civil war started. Look at that. When the U.S. disbanded Hussein's security forces, many ended up hold on here. There's a little technical difficulties. But the truth of the matter is, you got to always see things a lot more bigger than what it is. So, okay, cool. I'm going to proceed on here. I hate these little confounded, Microsoft 10 stuff. Yeah, I might just have to get rid of it. It's been delaying my show. And as it proceeds here, it looks like Civil War started. When the U.S. disbanded Hussein's security forces, many ended up the top leader of the Islamic State. Can we say New World Order funded? Absolutely. CIA New World Order funded. ISIS. The terror groups from the Caliphate and others are often inspired directly by U.S. wars, while the perpetrators who kill innocents are obviously deranged attackers, from Omar Mateen to the Boston bombers to the Charlie Hebdo killers, cited opposition to U.S. intervention as motivation for their murders. This long history of intervention only helped spawn ISIS, but also Al-Qaeda, following the CIA's efforts to empower Mujahideen in Afghanistan and the U.S. geopolitical battle against the Soviet Union. Al-Qaeda grew out of the Mujahideen and then went on the attack in the United States. Findings for the University of Chicago's Project on Security and Terrorism suggest suicide attacks are a direct result of U.S. military occupation. A researcher, Robert A. Pape, explained in Foreign Policy in 2010. As the United States has occupied Afghanistan and Iraq, we have combined population of about 60 million. Total suicide attacks worldwide have been driven dramatically from about 300 from 1980 to 2003 to 1,800 from 2004 to 2009. Further, over 9% suicide attacks worldwide are now anti-American. I like to recommend everyone out there check out the book Blowback by Chalmers Johansson. Go to the library. You may have to go to archive.org, but you probably should get up maybe for a couple of weeks. But buy the book or go to the library. It's incredible. That's part of the whole thing of bad foreign policies. Despite this cycle of perpetual violence, Americans can still be bothered can't be bothered to care. They will often thoughts and prayers of mass shootings, many committed by crazed ex-soldiers and inspiring troops, in an apparent show of the ramifications of blind militarism. But these same Americans will reject compassion of those who condone violence, if not outright glorify it. As long as they do, innocent people will continue to die at both home and abroad. So it's like this, my friends. You have to look at things across the board. What happened in Parkland was absolutely disturbing. I'm not going to argue about that. When I see it for other countries doing it, like especially in Yemen, that infuriates me too. But actually, that's okay. But and there's folks out there, like these boneheaded politicians like Glamboy Marco Rubio, want to support saying that we shouldn't lift the embargo with Cuba because it has civil rights violations. But they'll bend over and spread his butt cheeks to Saudi Arabia. Ain't that great? That's called hypocrisy at its finest. Political hypocrisy, of course. And since you're here, the anti-media doesn't want to do donations and all that. That'd be great. And they're going to try to do a firewall because of the value and all that. So they're getting attacked too. You know, few people are seeing anti-media articles and social media sites that are crackdown. So share this stuff. And that's why I do my podcast. I always post everything here on my footnotes on Spreaker, especially Spreaker. And if you don't see on my other sites, go to Spreaker.com. Look number 3. And I get them there. So yes, that's just another example, my friends, how disturbing the world is. And intervention, give up for security, and still people want to trust the government. You got these cheerleaders out there, like Emma Gonzalez, trying to do change, never again. Well, what you're doing is you believe in never again. Yeah, never going to protect yourselves, right? And I'm not trying to be rude or pick on her, but I see some people, opportunists, taking advantage of her as the perfect pawn for the cause. And this is why you got to study history, because a lot of tyrannical governments have used children to get their way. Outlawed the Hitler Youth and the Khmer Rouge of Pol Pot in Cambodia. Those are 2 examples. I can go on and on and on. Something to look at. I did talk about my past shows as well. I got a clip on that with the Khmer Rouge and the children of Khmer Rouge. Trust me, it's insane. You got to stop being an empire once again. You got to start. You give a damn what happened to Parkland thoughts, but you got to do it to everyone else around the world. Don't use September 11th as an excuse. It's unacceptable in my realm. And I've been saying it for years. For the past 16 years, 9/11 was a New World Order agenda. Prove me wrong if you dare. Call me out. Have merit. Don't blow smoke. I get these straw men rhetoric out there. Can't even tie their own shoelaces. And I say that out of honor. I'm not here to toot my horn either. So yes to a republic, no to an empire. Plain and simple. We'll do one more here, my friends. And this one is from Common Dreams. Came out yesterday. After being told he's a full of shit at school event, Mnuchin demand UCLA suppress video. In addition, being called out as politicratic BS, students in attendance attacked the Treasury Chief of Records for closing on tens of thousands of Americans. Trump Treasury Secretary and former Goldman Sachs banker Stephen Mnuchin isn't accustomed to facing direct challenges to his wild economic claims or protests over the GOP tax plan he helped craft, after experiencing both during an event at UCLA's Berkeley Center on Monday. Mnuchin demanded that the video of his appearance be suppressed. Up yours, chump. According to the Wall Street Journal, Mnuchin complained to the audience that he usually only talks to people who want to listen to me to speak. After students and other attending yelled out, "I think you're full of shit," and denounced the Republican tax bill as an attack on people who are in poverty. After knowing this, it was the first time speaking at a university and increasingly agitated. Mnuchin stopped at the conversation several times, asking the hecklers either to identify themselves or explain why they were protesting, the Journal reported on Wednesday. UCLA initially planned to post a full video of the event to its website later this week, but the university spokeswoman told Journal that Mnuchin retracted his permission for the Berkeley Center to post this video and podcast yesterday events on its website. But thanks to the students and reporters who were in attendance, and a few short videos of the event ultimately emerged on social media. Stephen Mnuchin being called on his plutocratic BS at UCLA. Student Jacob Rucher wrote on Twitter, attached a short video of a protest and yelling at Mnuchin for working to take Americans' health care, enemy of the people, foreclosed on 36,000 people, and helped pass the biggest corporate tax cut in history. One thing I seen the video, and one thing I have to fully agree, it was focused. You got to use that money for the military-industrial complex. It's the military, but I say the military-industrial complex. So you know what? I commend them. I commend that person for that aspect because that person's absolutely correct. In addition to challenges from the crowd, Mnuchin was also pressed by market media radio host Kai Risedale, who questioned Mnuchin's widely debunked economic growth predictions. When Risedale asked Mnuchin how the U.S. economy is going to be hit the White House's 3% growth target, when averaging growth has consistently missed that mark, the Treasury chief accused Risedale on bias and simply asserted we firmly believe that we will have economic growth. Though, as this writing, UCLA has not yet posted the full video of the event and apparent submission to Mnuchin's demand. Marketplace posted an edited transcript and partial video of the interview on the site. Well, I find it pretty weak and pathetic. It should be just transparent fully. And the fact is this about Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. He's a Goldman Sachs stooge, a bend-over Bob to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. This is the problem, my friends, about the economy. When you have a private bank wants to print money out of thin air with no gold and silver backing, it turns to crap. It's like government knows best. It turns to crap. Manure or shit. You got to study the fall of the Reichsmark that happened in the 20s in Germany. Same method. And even in Argentina, when it was printed out thin air in the 90s. One of the wealthiest countries in South America turned to crap. Private banksters and corrupt governments love to screw the people over. That's how I look at these tax plans. And you got the people in the state and local levels are punishing people for making a living. Victimless crime laws. So here's the thing. Government's parasite of society as well. So I give this person a thumbs up. The person said, going to the military. Yep, military-industrial complex. And Steve Mnuchin, you suck at what you do anyway. That's all I got to say. All right, my friends, that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share it to social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to say something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondences with decorum. They keep me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Minds.com, Gab.ai, Gab.ai, FutureClub.net, FutureNet.club. Sorry, I forgot to get my cue card here. I still try to remember everything. Ha ha ha. Well, sorry about that, my friends. Patreon.com/LookYouLuck3 with 3 eyes. Gab, Gab.ai. Or you can email me in addition at LookYouLuck3@gmail.com, or your encrypted one, especially if you got a Proton account. That'd be great. LookYouLuck03 at protonmail.com. Woo, okay, my friends. That's all for now. Hope you folks have a great weekend. If I may do a show in there, you never know. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. May your guardian spirits be with you.